You know, in Zen, we're famous for our funny hats. Yay! Happy birthday, Tree Leaf! Yay! 10 years. And as I said, even after 10 years, I still got to make sure I push all the buttons correctly. It's so good to have all of you here. The way we started was one way on YouTube, and I'd make a talk once in a while, and at first vow to keep this place going for 9 years, every day, sitting every day together. So we're 1 year over. We've extended our lease. Wonderful. Most importantly, I'd like to thank Taigu for making the first 10 years possible, and all the Blue Mountain crew. You're here with us today. Heard from Myozan yesterday, and he wished us all well, and said he's sitting with us. And all of you, many of you who have been here for a long, long time during those 10 years. I was looking at some of our old faces. We've lost some people from this visible world who went on to sit with us in the not so visible world. Our hearts are with them today. One of the things about Tree Leaf is their words are still with us, and also a lot of friends come and go. Some people say, boy, all the people have come and gone in the 10 years of Tree Leaf. And I say, you know, some people sit for a day, some people sit for a week, and it touches them. A month, a year, some people find after a while it's time to go on to a new road, but some people stay here week after week, month after month, year after year, and those are the people who keep this way going and keep the flame burning. And I'm looking at some of them right now. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And we thank each other here because we all support each other. Happy 10 years. All right. I think I should take this off during the ceremony, but you get the idea. Okay. If you've been here before, you know what to do. And if it's your first time, just follow along.
마가 한야 하나미다 신교 간지 사이보 사츠교 인한야 하나미다 지쇼 뱅도 원가의 후도의 사이드 야크샤리 시기후 이두구 소쿠제 우구 소쿠제 시기유 소요 시기야쿠 녀세 샤리 네쇼노쿠 쇼부 쇼부 넷스후 The identity of relative and absolute The mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed west and east, while human faculties are both wise and dull. In the way there are no northern or southern ancestors, the subtle source shines clear in the light, the branching streams flow in the dark. To be attached to things is primordial illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. All spheres, every sense and field intermingle even as they shine alone, interacting even as they merge, yet keeping their places in expressions of their own. Sights differ primarily in shape and character, and sounds in harsh or soothing tones. The dark makes all words one, the brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their true nature as a child turns to its mother. Fire is hot, water is wet, wind moves and the earth is dense. Eye and form, ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, the sweet and sour, each independent of the other, like leaves that come from the same root. And though leaves and root must go back to the source, both root and leaves have their own uses. So darkness, darkness is light. Do not one, not two, like the earth before and the foot behind in walking. Each thing has its own being, which is no different from its place and function. The relative fits the absolute as a box and its lid. The absolute meets the relative like two arrow points that touch in midair. Hearing this, simply perceive where is. Make no criterion. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk upon it. Walking forward in the way, you draw no nearer, progress no further. One who fails to see this truth is mountains and rivers away. Listen those who would perceive this subtle mind. Live well your time by night and day. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now. In reciting the identity of relative and absolute, we dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha Honor One, the historical Buddha and teacher, and to those ancestral teachers, all successive Honor Ones up until Nempo Niwa Honor One and Gudo Wafu Honor One, and to all other Honor Ones throughout history, male and female Honor Ones whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate these efforts to the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well-being for all creatures now suffering or ill in health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be at peace and wisdom pervade the darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled, and compassion bloom in perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, maha prashna paramita.
Zazen? Get hit. Zazen? We will have a long kinhin. We will now have a talk and zazen. Why don't you make yourself? We'll be reciting the verse to open the sutras, Kyoni. Okay.
The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Well, happy birthday, everyone. Yay. I should put my hat back on. I got my little birthday hat. Happy birthday. It's our 10th anniversary here at Tree Leaf. But you know, for Zen folks, every moment is our birthday. I'd like to thank all the folks who will be sitting during this week. We're having a Zenathon. Folks are trying to keep the candle burning. Sitting all around the world, all our different places. And that kind of symbolizes who we are. This place was started 10 years ago for folks who could not easily get to a Zen group because of health or age. And then we found that there were also a lot of working people, people with families who might even have a Zen group close by, but because of their responsibilities, they could not get there. And this place is open all the time, everywhere, wherever folks need. And it's a good group of folks. I think we all agree on that. So thank you all. And thank you to Grace and everyone who has organized the Zenathon this week. We're also celebrating a more important birthday, the Buddha's birthday, which will be later this week. We'll have a couple of events to mark that. But you know, the Buddha's birthday, April 8th in Japan, is actually celebrated other days in the rest of Asia. It's probably, I believe, this late May this year. But that doesn't matter, because the Buddha's birthday is also every moment. Every moment. And also something timeless. Even our Tree Leaf Zendo birthday, we mark something artificial on the calendar and we say this is our 10th anniversary. But as the Buddha said, all things are impermanent. I hope we keep going for many, many more years, but nothing lasts forever. Yet each sitting is timeless. Each moment is a birthday party, is a celebration. And then it passes into the next moment. But there's something timeless about it. The Buddha's birthday is not something that you mark with a clock or a calendar. So I thought this week, what would we read that would be appropriate to the Buddha's birthday? And I chose one of Master Dogen's writings from the Shobogenzo, which is one of my personal, well, it's always meant something very special to me. And you would say, how is this one bright pearl about a birthday? Well, this one bright pearl, as we'll see when we're reading it, is something that's truly timeless. We don't say eternal, not that it goes on and on forever. It's something much more subtle. It's timeless. It's beyond measure. Master Dogen makes that very clear. But yet, it is all measure. It is the passing time. Timeless and the passing time. Beyond all things, yet all things. Your birthday and my birthday, you and me. Just the one bright pearl. It continues from the talk we had last time, which was on space. There, Master Dogen said that all things are like a great pearl whirling around in a silver ball. He liked this image very much. And this continues from that. So this is a beautiful description of Buddha's birthday. It begins, in this saha world, that means this mixed up, crazy world, this day-to-day world we live in, samsara, with all its ups and downs. In this saha world, in the great kingdom of Sung, China, there lived great Master Gensha. One day, while still a young monk and a student of Master Seppo, in order to explore widely the surrounding district, Gensha leaves the mountain carrying a traveling bag. But as he does so, he stubs his toe on a stone. Bleeding and in great pain, Gensha all at once seriously reflects as follows. They say this body is not real existence. Where does the pain come from? Master Gensha had been studying for years the principle that all is empty, that this world and body is something of a dream. And it is. It is. There's something that sweeps right through. But if you get lost in that, you miss what's right here all along. And it came to him when he hurt his little toe. He thereupon returns to Seppo, his teacher. Seppo asks him, what is it, tough guy? Tough guy is actually a pretty good, that's one of my Brad Warnerisms. Since I'm inspired by that book he wrote, where he takes He does a great job also with One Bright Pearl if you get the chance to read it. And there's a passage in there where the nickname for Gensha was literally tough guy, because Gensha was known as apparently a hard sitter, intense, trying to find emptiness. Where is emptiness? I want to pierce through this dream. I want to pierce through this Saha world to find out that this body has no real existence. And suddenly, a little toe, his little toe that he stubs, teaches him where the real meaning of this body has no real existence, where that is found. So his teacher kind of laughs and says, "Oh, what is it, tough guy? Sprained your little toe?" And Gensha says, "In the end, I just cannot be deceived by others." Seppo loves these words very much and says, "Is there anyone who does not have these words inside them? But is there anyone who can speak these words?" I'll tell you what that means. You know, there are a lot of koans where the teacher recognizes the enlightenment of the student. And you think the student gives some witty response like this to the koan, and the teacher says, "Oh, yeah, that was a really interesting thing you just said. That must be it. That must be enlightenment." And my belief is that no, that's not what's going on. You see, the teacher, when he confirms the student, is not confirming at all that the student knows. The teacher is confirming that it is obvious that the student knows that the student knows. There's a certain confidence in the eye. There's a certain light that shines. And the teacher now knows this fellow doesn't need me to tell him anything about what he knows or doesn't know. He knows. She knows. The teachers watch the students on a day-to-day basis. It's not one phrase they say. How are they carrying themselves? Are they now carrying themselves with such confidence, with such peace and balance, even amidst the ups and downs of life, even when they stub their toes or break their toes? Even with all the day-to-day events, the teacher can look at the person and say, this person knows that they know. And that's what the teacher is confirming. I like to say the teacher gives confirmation to that which cannot be given and confirms and approves that which needs no approval. You see? At least that's how I look at these things. So the teacher says, yeah, everybody knows, but few people can say it and really mean it. Is there anyone who does not have these words? You just cannot be deceived within them. But is there anyone who can speak these words and really mean them? Seppo asks further, so why don't you continue with your trip? Put a band-aid on that little boo-boo and get going. And Gensha says, Bodhidharma did not come to the eastern lands of China. The second patriarch did not go to the western heavens of India. Seppo praised this very much. Bodhidharma, according to our Zen history, did come from India to China. But Seppo said he did not go. He did not need to come because this truly is found everywhere. As Dogen said, there's no need to travel to dusty lands to find this. It's right here. I do not need to travel from teacher to teacher, reading the next book, reading the next sutra, finding the next shiny spiritual thing in order to find the answer to this. It's right here all along. But interesting, he then says the second patriarch did not go to India. And you know what? According to our history, the second patriarch, Bodhidharma's successor, never did go to India. So what could that possibly mean? It means something like, to me, whether you go or whether you don't go, it's all right here. Just because I say you don't need to make the trip doesn't mean that if you do make the trip, it's not there too. You understand? If you sit on the Zazen cushion, silent and still, it's right here, whole and complete, the one bright pearl. When you get up from the cushion and go make your trip, get on in the world, go make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the kids, go to the work, go to travel around the world searching for something, visiting India to see where the Buddha was born, whatever you do on a pilgrimage, it's all right there too. After he had attained the truth at last, Gensha taught people with the words that the whole universe in 10 directions, that means here, there, everywhere, up, down, right, left, the 10 directions, is one bright pearl. One day a monk asked him, I have heard the master's words that the whole universe in 10 directions is one bright pearl. How should the student understand this? The master Gensha says, the whole universe in 10 directions is one bright pearl. What use is understanding? When a Zen teacher usually says it's beyond understanding, he means she means there's a kind of understanding beyond understanding. It's not an idea. It's reality. We have an image here, a symbol, one bright pearl, and you might think reality is one bright pearl, and you have this image of this perfectly round, beautiful, shining pearl. Though if you've ever looked at a real pearl, have you ever looked at a real pearl? The ones that you get in the jewelry store, they always fool with to make them perfect round. Real pearls are always wonderfully, wildly shaped and imperfect. They only sell the good ones, they say, but the real pearl is just as imperfect as you and me in this whole world, and yet it shines. But this is a symbol. It's a symbol. So don't get lost in the idea, you see. Know it without just thinking about it. On a later day, the master asked the question back to the same monk. The whole universe in 10 directions is one bright pearl. How do you understand this? And the monk says, repeating exactly word for word what the teacher had said, the whole universe in 10 directions is one bright pearl. What use is understanding? Seems like the right answer, exactly what the teacher said, and yet the teacher laughs. The master says, I see you are struggling to get inside a demon's cave in a black mountain. That phrase takes a little explaining. I'm going to resort to Brad Warner here a little bit again. It means something like, you have your head up where the sun don't shine. In the black cave, to be perfectly blunt about it. Let's just say you're lost in the dark. Because he repeated with no true understanding at all. And the teacher knows it's not the words you say, it's how you live this. Again, there are folks, you meet them from time to time, they have a little insight, maybe a little opening experience, or they have a peak experience, or they get something from the sutras and they think they're done. The teacher looks at the student and says, this student knows that it's all about life. It's all how you live each day. It's not just intellectual. It's not just a momentary experience. It's the whole package. Whether you go to India or don't come to China, it's how you live every day. Going or coming, it's all right here. Dogen continues, the present expression, the whole universe in 10 directions is one bright pearl, originates with Gensha. The point is that the whole universe in 10 directions is not vast and great, not meager and small, not square or round, not centered or straight, not in a state of vigorous activity. I'm going to add one thing here that I think Dogen probably meant to say. For some reason it's not here. Nor in a state of quiet stillness. It's not disclosed in perfect clarity. It's not lost on the cloudiest, most confused day. You see? It's beyond all measure. It's beyond all shape. You think a round pearl, you think a vast pearl, you think a perfectly balanced pearl, you think a perfectly enlightened pearl. No, it's beyond and right through all that. Because this pearl, and Master Dogen makes this clear, this perfect, shining jewel is also all that is vast and all that is great. The jewel is the poor and the small, too. It's beyond it, and it is it. It is you who have no real existence, and this pearl is you and your life too. It's centered and straight, it's square and round, it's a state of vigorous activity and a state of sitting still. It's going to China or not going to China. It's beyond China or no China, and yet it is China, and it is India, and New York City, and Mexico, and Canada, where we sit, and here in Japan. This is the pearl. See? That pearl is pretty hard. I don't know what he did to his toe, but I just did a pretty good job on my fingers. Whew. I get the point. Because it is utterly beyond living and dying, going and coming. It is living and dying, going and coming, says Master Dogen. And because it is like this, the past has gone from this place, and the present comes from this place. It is the time of the past that's gone. It's the time of the present that has come, but it's always this place. When we are pursuing the ultimate, who can see it as utterly separate moments? Each separate moment that we see is no separate moment. And yet each separate moment is itself a shining jewel, the one bright pearl. The moments of sickness, the moments of health, the moments when you're young, the moments when you're old, each the ultimate, each one bright pearl. And who can hold it up for examination as a state of total stillness? This pearl is neither still, is neither moving. It is all movement. It is all stillness. It is the stillness that is movement. Something like that. Continuing with Master Dogen. The whole of the 10 directions describes the ceaseless process of pursuing things to make them into self, and of pursuing self to make it into something. Because we pursue the self to make it into something, the whole of the 10 directions is in the ceaseless state. He's actually talking about how we create the world here. We create this complicated world that feels like separation, that feels like winning and losing, that feels like birth and death, that feels like the calendar moving. Because our self is always chasing, our self is always weighing, our self is always trying to make the self better. Our self does not know the one bright pearl is here. So he continues, because we pursue self to make it into something, the whole of the 10 directions is in the ceaseless state. We make this whole disaster, we make the whole chaos of the world, because we cannot see the wholeness and harmony that is this one bright pearl. It sometimes overflows beyond our regulating ability, which is the pivot of the moment. I know at least one person I'm seeing here has a situation at home he told me about that I would describe just like that, right? The whole thing overflowing, right? I think maybe a couple of you are nodding there. I've got some situations. It gets out of control, man. This pearl looks like it's going to roll, sometimes roll right over you. Life is wild. Here's another translation. Most of this is Chodo Cross and Nishimura Roshi, but this was one from the Order of Buddhist Contemplatives translation. It's the same passage. In speaking of throughout all its 10 directions, Gensha was referring to our ceaselessly creating a self by chasing after things or creating things through our pursuit of a self. Because we create things through the pursuit of a self, the universe is ever restless throughout all its 10 directions, unceasing in its arising. Its operation is beyond our intellect to control. Master Dogen continues. This one pearl is still not its name, but it can be expressed so, and this has come to be regarded as its name. The one pearl goes directly through 10,000 years and is beyond the measurement of years. The eternal past has not ended, but the eternal present has arrived. The body exists now, and the mind exists now. Even so, the whole universe is a bright pearl. It is not grass and trees, there and here. It is not mountains and rivers at all points of the compass. It is a bright pearl. A yard of the pearl is a yard of brightness. It's not a name, it's not a symbol, though we're using a name and a symbol here today. It's not the past or the future. It's beyond all time, and yet it is perfectly the past and the future. It's not the blades of grass and the trees, the battlefields, the hospitals where people are suffering in sickness, but it is all those things. It is a bright pearl, and a yard of the pearl is a yard of brightness. Every inch of the pearl, everything is also the pearl's brightness. Continuing. That is why this bright pearl exists not only without a beginning, but also without an end. It is one bright pearl as the whole universe throughout all its 10 directions. It is not said to be 2 or 3. It's the 2 and the 3 too. It's the 2 and the 3 and the 10 million, the 8 billion people on the planet Earth, every ant, every blade of grass, and yet it's just one bright pearl. By the way, again, I've taken excerpts this week. The actual one bright pearl from Master Dogen Shobo Genzo is a little bit more intricate, and he uses a lot of more poetic references, some of which I skipped over for simplicity's sake and time. If you get a chance to read it, read Brad's version too. That's a kick. He's just hit the nail on the head again. But the whole body is one bright Dharma eye. The whole body is real substance. The whole body is brightness. And the whole body is the whole body itself. That's Dogen getting jazzy with his language, man. The pearl's the pearl, man. When it is the whole body, it is free of the hindrance of the whole body. It is perfect roundness, and roundly it rolls along. Just at the moment of the present, in all cases, is one bright pearl throughout the whole universe in 10 directions. So even though it seems to be continuously changing the outward appearance of its turning and not turning, it is just one bright pearl. All the appearances of changes in this world. Or when the mountain appears not to change. Truly, the mountain is always changing, even though it's too slow perhaps for the human eye to see. The days pass, the years pass. Suddenly, it's 10 years down the road for all of us. But yet, it's all just one bright pearl. The Buddha, 2,500 years ago. Or was it just now? This now? Just one bright pearl. That is why, even though it seems that on the surface things are either fluctuating or still, everything is the bright pearl. To know that this is precisely how the jewel is what the bright pearl is. Because this is the way things can be, even though you may be uncertain about whether or not something is the bright pearl, you should have no doubt about whether or not there is the jewel. How else to put this? A lot of you might be sitting there scratching your head and going, what's all this bright pearl stuff? Kind of get it, or I don't, or I completely am lost. Wonder what's on Netflix. Why am I sitting here and listening to this guy babble on about some bright pearl? I could be out earning money to buy a real pearl. The bright pearl is so pearly, it doesn't care whether you understand this or not. When we're deluded, it's the bright pearl. When we see clearly, it's the bright pearl. When we feel all pearly, it's the bright pearl. When we feel like a sharp stone just broke our toe, it's the bright pearl. That stone that broke his toe was the bright pearl too. And so was his toe. So, whether you actively pursue your doubts, cling to them, or let them go, they are simply momentary observations of little significance, fleeting images of small weight. It's multifaceted, brilliantly hued, sparkling, is the merit of the universe throughout all its 10 directions. Who could take this from you by force? You know, a real jewel, you can get robbed, and someone can take it. This jewel can never be taken. There's actually a story in the Lotus Sutra that's kind of the opposite of that. A fellow falls asleep, and his friend wants to make sure he's taken care of but doesn't want to wake him up, so sews a jewel in his pocket. And the fellow lives for the next 10 years in utter poverty, not knowing that he had this jewel in his pocket that he could access any time. And then he meets the friend and he says, oh, my life's been so bad this past 10 years. And the friend says, well, why didn't you, sell the jewel I gave you? It was always there. And the fellow says, I didn't know about it. Boom, boom, boom. Punchline. It was always there, even if you don't know about it. Okay. So this jewel cannot be taken from you. Continuing. Those who surmise that I cannot be the bright pearl should not doubt that they are the bright pearl. Trust me. Would I lie to you? Would the Buddha lie? Of course not. Trust me, you're a pearl. Who feels like a pearl? Everybody raise their hand. Who kind of feels like a pearl? Who's wondering, what the heck is this guy talking about the last half hour? Okay, that's me. I have no idea what's going on. Okay. Artificial states of surmising and doubting, thinking about it intellectually too, doesn't matter. Whether you understand this intellectually or not, you're the pearl. You don't believe me? Go stub your toe. Artificial states of surmising and doubting, attaching and rejecting, are just the small view. They are nothing more than trying to make the bright pearl match the narrow intellect. Just turn your light around and return to that which shines within. For how much use is there in trying to understand this through the intellect? One of the descriptions that Master Dogen often uses to describe Zazen, though it came from Hongzhi and long before, is to, when we sit Zazen, instead of looking out in the world, reaching out, that self he was talking about, the self that's trying to grab and make itself and trying to grab a real pearl, make some money out there and worried, looking outward. When we sit, we turn the light in and let it shine. You know that song? It's American Spiritual. I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. You know that? It's beautiful, spiritual. Well, anyway, just turn your light around and let it shine and return to that which shines within. For how much use is there in trying to understand this through the intellect? How could we not love the bright pearl? Its colors and light as they are endless. Every shade of the universe, every manifestation of all things, just as they are endless. Each color and every ray of light at each moment and in every situation is the virtue of the whole universe in 10 directions. Even surmising and worry is not different from the bright pearl. On your scariest day, when you feel completely lost, that also is the bright pearl. I'm in a singing mood again. When you're down and troubled. You know that song? I'm into 70s pop today. Please excuse me. But every moment, no matter how lost you are, how confused, how you think this world is so ugly and hopeless, is not different from the bright pearl. Have a cookie. You're not eating the cookie. You want a cookie? Okay, we have tea and cookies here. Okay. Therefore, no action nor any thought has ever been caused by anything other than the bright pearl. Oh, everything you do, every gesture, every action, for good or bad, when you act in peace, when you act in violence. When the oil heater sings "Love Me Tender," it is just the bright pearl. Of course, it's hard to see the bright pearl when you're caught in ignorance and ugliness. This is why we practice too. Although a day of hate and a day of violence and anger and separate thoughts of me and you and the other guy is also the bright pearl, it's obstructed, it can't be seen. It's as if you had that pearl hidden in your pocket, forgotten. In order to realize that all things are the bright pearl, we live by peace. We live by allowing and forgiveness, generosity and wholeness, thoughts of harmony and unity. And then the bright pearl shines bright. But the bright pearl was there even on the ugliest day. That's what he's saying. Anyway, therefore, forward steps and backward steps in a demon's black mountain cave are just the one bright pearl itself. Even when you're like that student, completely lost in the dark, it is just the one bright pearl. Preached to the assembly in 1243, but that's just a moment ago. One bright pearl. Capturing the Buddha's birthday 2,500 years ago. Just this moment, one bright pearl. Well, 10 years ago when we started Tree Leaf, we didn't have the ability to actually, I never saw anybody out there and we couldn't talk or anything, so I want to make use of this. Anybody have a question? And even if you don't, ask something. Who's got a question? Michael.
This may be a silly question, but it's a question. You're talking about how the student knew or had the confidence in knowing. How does one know that if that knowing or that confidence is not just an extension of the dream within the dream? So how does one know that they are this bright pearl, but maybe even that confidence is just the dream?
If you knew that, you wouldn't be asking me. Boom, boom. It's like that old thing. I know that you know that you know that I know that you know. Remember that?
Yes.
Here's what I think. You know, sometimes you get folks and they have a moment, a peak experience, a moment of opening, and they think they've got it. And then they get on with life and they try to stay in the wooey, and their life falls apart. Here's my litmus test. When you get the cancer diagnosis, when your dearest loved one dies, when you stub your toe or get a flat tire or your house burns down, when it's a happy day or a sad day, when it's a birthday party or it's a funeral, whatever it is, this is where the proof of the pudding of this practice meets. When you see the clarity, the peace, the wholeness, the harmony, when the teacher sees this in someone's behavior and how they express themselves, you can know who's kind of faking it or has a little bit of insight and who maybe really has the sound. I compared this to Coltrane. I was posting about this at Dharma Wheel, and I said it's like me who's had 5 saxophone lessons and listening to John Coltrane. You can tell the gifted musician by the harmony, what they do with their instrument, which is their self, versus the hack who's just kind of faking it and maybe knows how to play Love Me Tender, and that's about it. See? So it's how you live, how you react. It wasn't one particular answer you give. And when you know that you know, you know. It's not a moment of insight, a brief passing, an opening experience, a moment of kensho. When this is working in your life, when suddenly this whole messy, complex world of beauty and ugliness and war and peace and sickness and health, when suddenly you know, that's it, one bright pearl. You don't need to ask me or anyone. When a Zen teacher puts a stamp on someone and gives approval, they're giving approval of something that has no need of approval and cannot be given or taken. Anyway, that's my crazy way of looking at this. Okay.
Thank you.
Another question? We're going to be celebrating our 10th anniversary too with the ordination of Daizan and Sekeshi in a couple of weeks. So Daizan, what's your question? Can I turn your microphone on? I have amazing powers, but not that amazing. I have powers of hearing, but you have to turn your microphone. Yeah, go ahead.
I could not turn my microphone on and pretend I can't. What does the bright pearl taste like when you're tasting jam?
Tastes like jam. That was actually a great question. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. You have anything? No? You good?
Well, I was just wondering about the bright pearl and emptiness. For a brief moment, I thought the bright pearl is emptiness, or emptiness is the bright pearl. But now I lost that concept totally, and I thought maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Yes, the bright pearl is emptiness. And yes, it's a concept you have. And as he said, whether you have a concept in this or don't have a concept of this, the bright pearl is emptiness. And emptiness is also the wholeness that is you and me and the other thing. And whether I'm explaining this logically or not right now doesn't matter at all, because the bright pearl is just the bright pearl. Stop thinking about it. Get back on the cushion and turn that light around and let it shine. Shall we sit for a few minutes? Would you recite the verse to close the sutra, Kyonin?
May the merits of these teachings penetrate into each thing and all places, so that we and every sentient being together may realize the Buddha's way. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Mahaprajna Paramita.
Okay, we will have our super short zazen, beyond long and short, followed by a super short kinhin with no place to go. Kinhin? Zazen? have a long kinhin. We will now recite the metaverses, followed by Zazen. And not this one. Oh, there you go. You can have a seat. All right. We will now recite the metaverses. Somebody asked me the other day, how do I do this? What do I just recite the words? And I said, you really feel it. And the only thing I can say is you really feel like you feel the music. Just in your heart, really sincerely wish this for folks. We begin with ourselves. Nothing wrong with wishing peace to ourselves and someone we love, a friend, a stranger, someone we know in passing, then a difficult person in our lives, maybe someone who even wishes us harm is an excellent person to chant for, and then all sentient beings. All right? I'll ring the bell. May I be free of suffering. May I feel safe and still. May I be free of enmity. May I be loving, grateful, and kind. May I be healthy and at ease in all my ills. May I be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. When I recite, I take a little moment to pause at each word, just to kind of feel each word. Free of enmity, feel it. Right? At ease in all my ills, I kind of feel it, so I take a little quarter breath. All right, now someone we love. Wait a second, who am I thinking of? May I be free of suffering. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, now a friend. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay? Let's see. Now, someone difficult. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. And now that I said it, I'm taking a little extra time, more than I usually do, but it's a good thing. Okay. Oh, did I miss the stranger? Oh, I missed the stranger, right? Skip the went friends. Okay, well, put the stranger in here now. Okay, stranger won't mind. Let's see who. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, now we'll recite for all sentient beings. May we be free of suffering. May we be safe and still. May we be free of enmity. May we be loving, grateful, and kind. May we be healthy and at ease in all our ills. May we be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay, let's sit one more small period of Zazen, and you can sit where you wish. You can go back to your place. Let me sit. Okay. Give Danielle a chance. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows.
All harmful words, thoughts, and acts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind. Now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way unattainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way unattainable, to save all sentient beings, though beings numberless, to transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, though reality is boundless, to attain the enlightened way, a way unattainable.
Okay. Good to see you guys. Thanks for everyone being here. Kyonin, lovely. Shingen, Onkai, good to see you. And Daizan, everyone at home. And here's to maybe another 10 years, huh?
Happy birthday.
All right. See you guys later. Bye.